On the morning of January 8, 1943, men from the United States government arrive at the Hotel New Yorker on 34th Street and go directly to the 33rd floor. They do not stop at the front desk. They do not ask for directions. They know exactly which room they are looking for. They do not knock. A maid knocked sometime around 7. No answer. She moved on. The old man on the 33rd floor had a reputation for his privacy, and there were other rooms to clean. A second employee tried an hour later, knocked harder, waited longer, and also moved on. It is January in New York, and the Hotel New Yorker has more pressing concerns than one silent guest on an upper floor. By the time a third maid is finally sent with a key, the window in room 3327 has been open all night. The room is very cold. Nikola Tesla is lying on the bed still, the way a man lies when he has been still for a long time. The physician who arrives writes his notes quickly. Coronary thrombosis sometime the previous evening, the body hours cold by now. What happens next is not standard procedure for a natural death in a hotel room. Before Tesla's nephew can reach the building, before any family member has been notified, before the body has been moved, the men from the Office of Alien Property are already on the 33rd floor. They walk past the bed. They walk past the window with its ledge of cold birdseed, past the stacked notebooks, past the crackers and the warm milk. They go straight to the safe. But we are not starting here. To understand what those men were looking for and why the government of the United States moved faster than his own family, we have to go back 24 hours to the last evening of the man who gave the world its electricity, alone in a room that smelled of birdseed and cold air, with the window open for a visitor that had stopped coming a long time ago. Part 1. The man in room 3327. Room 3327 is on the 33rd floor, which is not an accident. Nikola Tesla chose this room with the same precision he brought to everything else in his life. 33, a multiple of 3. 3 was the number he trusted. He walked around a building 3 times before entering. He washed his hands 3 times in succession. He ate alone, folded his napkins into careful squares, and counted, compulsively, the steps between wherever he was and wherever he was going. The number 3 ran through his life like a current. So, when the Westinghouse Electric Company offered to cover his rent at the Hotel New Yorker in 1934, a quiet act of financial mercy toward a man who had made them a fortune and seen almost none of it himself, Tesla asked for a room on the 33rd floor, and they gave him what he asked for. He has lived here for 9 years now. For the last several of those years, he has barely left. The Hotel New Yorker is one of the grandest buildings in Midtown Manhattan, 43 stories of Art Deco brick and limestone at the intersection of 34th Street and 8th Avenue, 2 blocks from Penn Station. When it opened in 1930, it was among the largest hotels in the world, 2,500 rooms, its own power plant in the basement, a barber shop, a pharmacy, a radio station broadcasting from the lobby. Benny Goodman has played the ballroom. Presidents have slept here. It is the kind of place where you expect the guests to move through the corridors with purpose, dressed for something, carrying something, going somewhere. Tesla has not been going somewhere for a long time. The 2 rooms he occupies, 3327 is the bedroom, 3328 is the study, are paid for by Westinghouse at a rate of a few $100s a month. It is not charity exactly. It is something more uncomfortable than charity. The corporation paying the man who made their fortune a small stipend to keep him alive and somewhere close to quiet. Tesla receives some additional income from the Yugoslav government, who regard him as a national treasure and treat him accordingly, with honorifics and small checks and very little actual intervention in his daily life. Between these 2 streams of money, he manages not well. But he manages. The room itself tells the story of someone who has steadily reduced the world to its essentials. There are notebooks, stacked and dense with handwriting, accumulated over decades. There is a safe in the wall, which Tesla has told journalists contains his most important work, plans for a directed energy weapon he has been calling the Teleforce device, or, when he wants attention, the death ray. The safe is locked. The papers inside, he has claimed in interviews, are so advanced that no one currently alive would be able to understand them. There are Nabisco crackers on a shelf, a carton of warm milk. On the windowsill, the window is open, always slightly open. Even in January, there is birdseed spread in a careful line. He is 86 years old. He is the tallest man in any room he enters, or was before his spine began to compress with age. He is still lean. still precise in his dress, still wearing the dark suits and white shirts he has favored since the 1880s. His hands, when visitors describe them in later years, are what they remember most. Enormous, elegant, the hands of a man built for delicate work, now spotted and slightly trembling. This evening, the evening of January 7, 1943, the last thing on earth that anyone knows about Nikola Tesla is that the birdseed on the windowsill is going to go untouched. The pigeon he leaves it for has been dead for more than 20 years. She was white, with light grey tips on her wings. Tesla described her to his biographer, John O'Neill, in his own words, and O'Neill wrote them down verbatim because they were the kind of words you write down. I have been feeding pigeons, thousands of them, for years, but there was one pigeon, a beautiful bird, pure white with light grey tips on its wings. That one was different. It was a female. I would know that pigeon anywhere. No matter where I was, that pigeon would find me. When I wanted her, I had only to wish and call her, and she would come flying to me. She understood me, and I understood her. I loved that pigeon. Yes, I loved her as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life. He was not speaking metaphorically. Tesla told this story carefully to multiple people with the gravity of a man reporting a fact. The pigeon had come to his window one night in the early 1920s. He was living in a different hotel then, the St. Regis, before the unpaid bills and the droppings drove him out, and she was dying. As she lay on his desk, he said, a light came from her eyes. Not reflected light, generated light. Brighter than anything he had ever produced in his laboratory. He described it in terms of luminosity and intensity, using the vocabulary of electrical engineering to explain what he had seen in the last moments of a bird's life. When she died, he told O'Neill, he felt that something had gone out of him too. A purpose, a direction, a specific kind of attention that had kept him pointed forward. He continued feeding pigeons after that. He still walked to Bryant Park at night, still spread seed on the windowsill every evening, still whistled low in the darkness and felt the air move as they came. But he told a friend, quietly, that he kept looking for her. That he went because who could say, really? Who could say, tonight, the seed will sit on the ledge until the cold air hardens it, and then the wind will take it, and the pigeons that come will be ordinary pigeons, not looking for anyone in particular, and the window will be open and the room will be lit, and the man inside will be lying very still in his bed, and nobody will know for a long time. But that is where we are going. Before we get there, we need to understand the room more fully. Not the objects in it, the crackers, the notebooks, the safe, the seed, but the distance between what that room contains and what it should have contained. Between the man lying in that bed and the man he was supposed to become. To understand that, we need to go back further. Not 20 years, 50. We need to go back to the moment when Nikola Tesla had everything. Part 2. How a man disappears. There is a version of Nikola Tesla that everyone recognizes. He is the man who gave the world its electricity, the one who beat Edison. The Serbian immigrant who arrived in New York in the summer of 1884 with 4 cents in his pocket, the clothes on his back, and calculations in his head for a motor that would change the physics of how power moved through the world. The man who lit up the Chicago World's Fair in 1893 with alternating current, who stood at Niagara Falls in 1895 and watched the first large-scale AC power station begin transmitting electricity 25 miles to Buffalo, a distance that direct current could not have managed, that Edison had insisted could not be done. The man who held live electrical wires in his demonstrations to show audiences that alternating current, controlled properly, would not kill you. The showman, the genius, the man who made the 20th century possible before the 20th century had begun. That man is real. Everything attributed to him is real. The question is how he ended up on the 33rd floor of a hotel he could not afford, leaving birdseed on a windowsill for a pigeon that had been dead for 20 years. The answer is not simple. It never is with Tesla. But there are 3 moments where you can watch the distance open up between what he was and what room 3327 contains. The first moment is in Pittsburgh sometime around 1891. George Westinghouse calls Tesla into his office. Westinghouse Electric is in trouble. The war of currents, the years-long public battle between Westinghouse's alternating current system and Edison's direct current, has drained the company's finances. Edison has been vicious. Public electrocutions of animals to demonstrate AC's dangers, lobbying campaigns, press manipulation. Westinghouse has fought back and won mostly, but the legal battles have been expensive, the economy is tightening, and the company's creditors are circling. The problem, Westinghouse explains, is the royalty contract he signed with Tesla in 1888. $2.50 per horsepower of electrical capacity sold. At the time it seemed like a reasonable deal. Now, as AC power spreads across America and the horsepower numbers compound, the royalties Tesla is owed are threatening to make the company insolvent. Westinghouse is not asking Tesla to renegotiate, he is telling him that without relief from the contract, the company will fail. And if the company fails, the AC system dies with it, decades of work gone. Tesla listens. Then he walks to the safe in Westinghouse's office, takes out the original contract, the document that made him a millionaire by 35, the document that should have made him one of the wealthiest men in the world, and tears it into pieces. He tells Westinghouse, "You will save your company." He walks out with nothing but the knowledge that he did it. No royalties, present or future. No percentage of the industry he created. In later years, he will describe this as the correct decision. He will not describe it as a difficult one. He never seems to understand, or perhaps simply does not care, that he has just given away what would have been, in today's currency, several $billion. He is not interested in money in the way that money is interested in him. He is interested in what electricity can do next. This is the first moment, not a failure, a choice, but a choice with consequences that will compound over the next 50 years until they end in room 3327. The second moment is on Long Island. In the summer of 1903, Tesla has spent the last 2 years building a tower. It stands 187 feet above the flat ground at Shoreham, Long Island, a wooden shaft topped with a 55-ton copper dome designed by Stanford White, who is at this point the most famous architect in America and will, within 3 years, be shot to death at a rooftop dinner party in what will become the scandal of the decade. The tower is called Wardenclyffe. Tesla told J.P. Morgan, who provided the initial $150,000, that it was a wireless communications station, a competitor to Guglielmo Marconi's transatlantic radio system. This is partially true. What Tesla did not mention to Morgan, at least not initially, is that his actual ambition is considerably larger. He wants to transmit electrical power, not signals, not Morse code. Power itself, beamed wirelessly through the Earth's atmosphere and through the ground, available to anyone anywhere on the planet with a receiving device. Free, unlimited, without wires, without meters, without infrastructure, without bills, a world in which electricity is simply available the way air is available, and the question of who can afford to keep their lights on never has to be asked. Morgan finds out the real scope of the project in July of 1903, when Tesla, having spent the $150,000 and needing more, writes him a letter explaining what Wardenclyffe is actually for. Morgan's reply is brief. "I have received your letter and in reply would say that I should not feel disposed at present to make any further advances." Tesla writes again and again. He becomes increasingly desperate, increasingly grandiose, increasingly willing to promise things he cannot verify. Morgan does not reply. Marconi, meanwhile, has already sent a wireless signal across the Atlantic. Just a single letter, just a test transmission, but enough. Investors who might have backed Tesla read the news about Marconi and decide there is no reason to fund an unproven system from a man who cannot deliver his own project on time and budget. The tower stands empty for a decade. In 1917, the new property owner, who holds the Wardenclyffe deed as partial settlement of Tesla's debts to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, sells the tower for scrap. The demolition takes 3 months. The metal raises $1,750. Tesla reportedly wept when he learned they were tearing it down. He is 61 years old. He will live another 26 years. He will never build another laboratory. Here is what Wardenclyffe actually was, stripped of mythology. It was the moment Tesla's ambition finally outran his ability to deliver, and his ability to fundraise, and his willingness to work within the constraints that financiers and markets and practical physics impose on even the largest ideas. It was not stolen, it was not suppressed. It was abandoned because it was running out of money, and its primary investor had been deceived about its purpose, and Marconi had beaten him to the simpler version. None of this diminishes the vision. It does explain the room on the 33rd floor. The third moment is in 1931. Thomas Edison dies on October 18th in his home in New Jersey. He is 84 years old. President Herbert Hoover asks Americans to turn off their electric lights for 1 minute in his honor. The streets go dark from coast to coast. The gesture is straightforward. Edison invented the light bulb, and so the appropriate tribute is darkness. The tribute is not entirely accurate. Edison invented a version of the incandescent light. It was Tesla's alternating current system, the patents torn up in Pittsburgh 40 years earlier, that made it possible to power that light in any home in America, not just the ones within a mile of a generating plant. The electrical grid that carried the power to the bulbs people turned off in Edison's memory was, in its fundamental architecture, Tesla's creation. But Tesla is not mentioned in the obituaries. He is not asked to give a tribute. He is not interviewed. He is 81 years old, living on Westinghouse's small charity stipend in a room on the 33rd floor of a hotel at 34th and 8th. And the world is not particularly paying attention to what he thinks about anything. He gives a brief statement to a journalist who finds him. He says that Edison was, in his way, a great man. He says that the world has lost someone significant. The journalist writes it up, and it appears on a back page somewhere and is quickly forgotten. Edison dies and the lights go dark. Tesla lives another 12 years, and the lights stay on, and they stay on partly because of him. And the 33rd floor window stays open, and the birdseed sits on the ledge, and the pigeon he is waiting for does not come. He has been waiting since 1922. Part 3, The Quiet Outside the Door. The last thing anyone can say with certainty about Nikola Tesla, the last documented fact about a living man, is that on the evening of January 7, 1943, he was seen by hotel staff near his room on the 33rd floor. He did not go down to dinner. He rarely went down to dinner anymore. The room service trays came and went, mostly untouched. In his final years, his diet had narrowed to warm milk and crackers, the Nabisco boxes stacked on the shelf beside the notebooks, the cans beside the crackers, and nothing else worth mentioning. He had been doing less and less of the things that constitute a life outside a room. The window was open, as always. The birdseed was on the ledge. He went to bed. After that, nobody knows anything. The maid assigned to the 33rd floor arrives for her morning rounds sometime before 7. She knocks on the door of 3327. No answer. This is not unusual. The old man on the 33rd floor is known to be particular about his privacy, known to leave the "Do Not Disturb" sign out for days at a time, known to be sleeping when other guests are awake and awake when they are sleeping. She moves on. A second knock from a different employee sometime later in the morning. Still nothing. Tesla's nephew, Sava Kosanovich, tries to telephone. He is a Yugoslav diplomat in Washington, close enough to his uncle to visit when he can, attentive enough to call regularly. The phone rings in the room on the 33rd floor. It rings and rings. Kosanovich tries again. The phone rings. He begins making calls to the hotel, asking them to check on his uncle. The hotel staff reassure him that the man rarely answers, that this is normal, that they will look in on him. They do not immediately look in on him. The morning passes. The hotel is busy. It is a Thursday in January, and the lobby is full of men in uniforms because the Hotel New Yorker sits 2 blocks from Penn Station, and in January of 1943, Penn Station is the busiest it has ever been in its history. Soldiers and sailors coming and going around the clock. The city running on a wartime rhythm that has no quiet hours and no slow days. The lobby smells of cigarette smoke and damp wool, and the particular anxiety of people who are traveling towards something they are not sure they will survive. On the 33rd floor, there is no sound from room 3327. It is worth pausing here for a moment to say something about what is happening in the city outside the window Tesla has left open. Less than 2 miles north of the Hotel New Yorker at Columbia University on 116th Street, a team of physicists are working on what is, at this point, the most classified research program in American history. The project has no official public name. Internally, it is called the Manhattan Engineer District, which will later be shortened to something simpler. The work began here at Columbia in a converted racquetball court beneath the football stands, and has since expanded to facilities in Chicago, Tennessee, and the desert of New Mexico. It will eventually employ 500,000 people. Most of them do not know what they are building. What they are building is an atomic bomb. The physics that makes this possible, the understanding of electromagnetic fields, of resonance, of the behavior of energy at frequencies the human eye cannot see, is physics that Nikola Tesla spent his life working on. Not nuclear physics, specifically, but the conceptual landscape is one he helped map. The world in which it became possible to think about releasing the energy inside matter, rather than generating it through mechanical means, is a world shaped, in part, by what Tesla demonstrated in the 1890s, that energy could behave in ways that seemed at the time like magic. That invisible forces could cross distances that should have been impossible. That the line between what was conceivable and what was buildable was thinner than anyone had assumed. Tesla himself had spent years trying to interest governments in a directed energy weapon. He called it the teleforce. He wrote papers about it, gave interviews about it, offered it to the American military and the British and the Soviets and anyone else who would listen. Nobody funded it, nobody built it. The safe in his room contains the documents he believes describe the principle. In a few hours, men from the Office of Alien Property will come for those documents. They will go to the safe first, 2 miles north, in a facility that does not appear on any public map. Physicists who have never heard of Room 3327 are building something that will end the war. They are working with mathematics. They are working with materials that do not yet exist in the quantities they need. They are working in conditions of secrecy so complete that when they write letters home, they cannot say where they are, or what they do, or why they cannot visit. Tesla has no one to write letters to. He has Kosanovic, who is calling the hotel again. He has the hotel staff, who are beginning to take the calls more seriously. He has, on the windowsill, the birdseed going cold in the January air. The afternoon passes. Sometime in the early evening, the hotel sends a maid, the third person to try the door that day, with a key. She knocks first. She waits. She unlocks the door. The door opens. She finds him in bed, on his back, the covers arranged as if he simply lay down and did not move again. The window is open. The birdseed is on the ledge. The physician is called. He arrives quickly, makes his examination, writes his notes. Coronary thrombosis, the heart stopping quietly, probably hours ago, probably sometime in the night. The body is taken out. The hotel calls the relevant authorities, and then, before Sava Kosanovic can reach the building, before any family member has been told, before any of the people who knew this man have had a chance to stand in the room and absorb what is gone, men from the Office of Alien Property arrive on the 33rd floor with a mandate from the United States government, and they go directly to the safe. Part 4. The men who came for the papers. The Office of Alien Property Custodian was created during the First World War to manage assets belonging to enemy nationals. By 1943, it has a broader mandate. Anything belonging to a foreign-born person that might constitute a risk to national security can be seized, inventoried, and held pending evaluation. Tesla was born in what is now Croatia. He became an American citizen in 1891. None of this matters to the men who arrive on the 33rd floor. They have a mandate. They execute it. Sava Kosanovic arrives at the hotel and finds that the room has already been entered, the body removed, and certain papers are missing. A black notebook he knew Tesla kept, several hundred pages, some of them marked with the word government, is not where it should be. The trunks of documents, the equipment, the contents of the safe, all of it is in the custody of the office. Kosanovic makes his complaints through official channels. The official channels do not move quickly. 3 weeks after Tesla's death, the government assigns someone to evaluate the papers. His name is John G. Trump. He is 36 years old, a professor of electrical engineering at MIT, a specialist in high-voltage equipment and radiation technology, currently working on radar research for the Allied war effort. He is also, though this will not become a matter of public interest for another 70 years, the younger brother of Fred Trump, whose son Donald will one day be President of the United States. John Trump will become, in his own right, a respected scientist, a National Medal of Science recipient, a man who builds X-ray machines that save cancer patients. In January of 1943, he is the man the government trusts to tell them whether Nikola Tesla's papers contain anything worth worrying about. He spends 3 days with the documents. His conclusion, submitted in a formal report to the FBI and the Office of Alien Property, is that Tesla's work over at least the past 15 years was primarily of a speculative, philosophical and somewhat promotional character, and did not include new, sound, workable principles or methods for realizing such results. In other words, the death ray does not exist. The teleforce is a theory without a working mechanism. There is nothing here that the enemy could use. This conclusion has been questioned ever since. The reason it is questioned is that certain documents were not returned to Tesla's family when the rest of the papers were released. Some were transferred to a storage facility, some were classified and remain so. The copies of Tesla's particle beam papers that were distributed to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio as part of a follow-up evaluation called Project Nick disappeared entirely. The copies exist in no archive that has been made public. The project was officially discontinued. What happened to the results or to the papers themselves has never been explained. In 1945, 2 years after Tesla's death, the United States detonated the first atomic bomb in the New Mexico desert. It was built in part by physicists working at a facility in a city that did not officially exist, using mathematics that Tesla did not invent, toward an application Tesla would not have endorsed. But the facility that housed those physicists ran on alternating current. The city that didn't exist was lit by a grid whose basic architecture Tesla had designed 50 years earlier. The war ended. The papers remained classified. The questions remained unanswered. The funeral was held 3 days after Tesla's death at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine on Amsterdam Avenue, 8 blocks from Columbia University, where the physicists were working on the bomb. 2,000 people came. Eleanor Roosevelt sent flowers. The Yugoslav government sent an official delegation. Mayor LaGuardia gave a eulogy. The New York Times ran an obituary on the front page that acknowledged his contributions and, in its final paragraphs, noted that some of his later claims had been regarded with skepticism by the scientific community. He was buried in Belgrade, in a gold-plated urn, in a museum that bears his name. The Edison Medal, the highest honor in American electrical engineering, named for his rival, which Tesla received in 1917, has never been found. It was in the hotel room when he died. It was not in the inventory of items returned to his family. Kenneth Sweezy, Tesla's friend, contacted the government asking about it. The government did not know where it was. It remains missing. Sava Kosanovic eventually received a portion of the papers. They were shipped to Belgrade, where they are now held in the Nikola Tesla Museum. Researchers who visit can see selected documents. The access is not unlimited. Some of the files from 1943 that were transferred to government custody have never been returned or accounted for. John G. Trump continued his career at MIT. He received the National Medal of Science in 1983 for his contributions to high-voltage technology and cancer treatment. He died in 1984. His nephew was elected President of the United States in 2016, and during the campaign mentioned his uncle's credentials in relation to nuclear technology on several occasions, though he did not mention Tesla Room 3327 at the Hotel New Yorker is still a hotel room. It has been renovated. It has a plaque on the door and photographs of Tesla on the walls, and guests can book it if they want to sleep in the place where he died. Nicolas Cage stayed there once while preparing to play a character who throws lightning bolts. The hotel's website describes the room as a tribute to a visionary. The window these days is generally kept closed. There is a detail, small and easy to miss, in the accounts of Tesla's final years at the hotel. Multiple sources note that even near the end, even when he rarely left the room, he kept the window open, not because he liked the cold, because the pigeons needed to be able to come in. The white pigeon had been dead for 20 years. He kept the window open anyway, on the ledge every night, birdseed that he spread himself. Who can tell, he had said to a friend once, when asked why he kept coming back to Bryant Park, why he kept spreading the seed, why he kept leaving the window open for a bird that no longer came. Who can tell? He was found with the window open. The birdseed was on the ledge. The morning after he died, before the snow came, the ordinary pigeons would have found it, the grey ones without any light in their eyes, and eaten it, not knowing anything, not looking for anyone in particular. And the question he never answered, who can tell, is the one that stays. This has been Aphelion. If you like videos like this, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. You'll find videos about the final moments of other famous people and more. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll read and reply to each one. Your engagement means a lot to me. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.